The world of Narellan was always cold. Ice covered the ground, the trees, and even the sky at times. The people who lived there, the Valari, had learned how to survive in this frozen land. Their skin was thick and silver blue, and their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. They were quiet, serious, and did not trust outsiders. In a small village near the edge of the ice cliffs lived a Valari mother named Jera. She was kind, but careful. Her most important treasure was her son, a young boy named Telen. He was only 6 winters old, full of energy and curiosity. He liked to explore the snowy fields and ask many questions about the world. Jera lived alone with her child. Her mate had died years ago in an avalanche. Since then, Jera had grown more protective of Telen. She did not let him go far from home, especially when the sky turned gray. One morning, Jera looked up and saw strange shapes in the clouds. The wind howled louder than usual. Snow began to fall hard and fast. An elder of the village came to her home. His name was Drenka, and he looked worried. "Jera," he said, "a great ice storm is coming, bigger than any storm we have seen in many seasons." Jera's heart filled with fear. "How long before it reaches us?" she asked. "One day, maybe less. We must stay indoors. Lock your doors and keep the child close." Jera nodded. She held Telen close to her and told him not to leave the house. But Telen was young. He did not understand how dangerous the storm could be. While Jera was preparing supplies, he slipped outside. He wanted to see the first snowflakes of the Eider. Great storm for himself. He ran to the edge of the hill, laughing and playing. He followed a snow fox into a small forest, then lost sight of his path. The wind grew louder and the snow fell like heavy white curtains. Soon, he could not find his way back. Back at home, Jera finished sealing the windows with ice panels. She turned to call her son, but he was gone. "Telen," she shouted. "Telen, come back." She ran into the storm, calling his name again and again, but her voice was swallowed by the wind. Far away on the other side of the ice valley, a human outpost stood near a ridge. The humans had come to Narellan only 3 years ago. They lived in strong shelters with heat, lights, and machines. Most Valari stayed away from them, believing they were selfish and cold-hearted. One of the humans, Captain Elias Vorn, sat inside his warm cabin, looking at the storm readings on a screen. He was tall, with dark hair and a tired face. His hands were scarred from old missions. Elias was a brave man, though he did not speak much. People said he had once saved a whole crew from a broken space station. The storm data on his screen blinked red. A strong snowstorm was moving faster than expected. The warning lights flashed. Just then, his radio beeped. A signal was coming from an old beacon near the forest line. The signal was weak, but it was there. Elias turned to his assistant, a young tech named Mara. "There's something out there," Elias said. "A signal. Someone might be in trouble." "Captain, the storm's getting worse. We're not supposed to go out," Mara warned. Elias looked at the screen again. He had seen storms like this before, on Mars, on Titan, and now here. "If there's a chance someone's out there, I have to go." He put on his cold suit, took emergency supplies, and left the outpost alone. Jera stumbled through the snow, her eyes full of tears. She searched for her son, calling his name into the wind. Her feet slipped on the ice and the cold cut through her fur cloak. She was not built for long journeys in storms like this. She found small footprints in the snow. They led toward the forest. She followed them, her hope fading with each step. The snow grew deeper. She fell, got up, and kept walking. Suddenly, her legs gave out. She fell again and could not rise, her vision dimmed. She thought she heard a voice in the wind, but it was only silence. Captain Elias moved through the storm with care. He had a thermal scanner in his hand. It beeped slowly, searching for heat. Then, a weak signal appeared. A small life form, alone, and cold, hidden near the base of a cliff. He climbed down carefully, shielding his eyes from the snow. At the bottom, under a snow-covered ledge, he found him, a small alien child, curled up and shivering. Elias dropped to his knees. "Hey, kid," he said softly. "You're going to be okay." He checked the boy's pulse. Weak, but still there. He wrapped the child in a thermal blanket, placed a heater near him, and held him close. "I've got you," Elias whispered. "You're not alone." He looked up at the sky. The storm was getting worse. Back in the village, Jera was found by 2 hunters. They carried her back to safety. She was weak but alive. When she woke, she cried out, "My child, where is my child?" The hunters looked at each other. "There was no one with you," one said. "Then he is still out there," Jera said. "And the storm is growing stronger." To be continued in Part 2, The Human Stranger. The snow fell harder as the sky turned darker. Wind roared across the icy hills, shaking trees and lifting small bits of snow into the air like tiny ghosts. This was not just a regular storm. It was a death storm, one that only came once in many years on the planet Naralon. Captain Elias Vorn knew this. He had read the storm charts, checked the warnings, and still he was here, in the middle of the cold, carrying a small Valari child through deep snow. The boy, Talen, was light in weight, but heavy in his arms. His silver-blue skin was cold. His breathing was shallow. He had stopped crying a while ago, and that made Elias more afraid than anything else. "Just hold on," Elias said, tightening the blanket around the child. "We'll get through this." His helmet lights showed, only white snow ahead. The trail he came from was already gone, buried under the fast-falling snow. He checked his scanner. The human outpost was too far to reach before night. The wind would be stronger, and temperatures would drop even more soon. He had to find shelter, and, far in the Valerie village, Jera sat by the heat crystal, her body shaking from cold and fear. Her clothes were wet, her arms were scraped, but she did not care. All she could think about was her son. "Why did he go out?" she whispered. "Why didn't I stop him?" Elder Drenka entered her home. He brought a warm drink and sat beside her. "You are lucky to be alive," he said gently. "My child is still out there," she replied. "We sent scouts," Drenka told her. "But the storm is too strong. They cannot go far. If your son is alive, someone must find him soon, or he will not survive the night." Jera closed her eyes. A strange thought entered her mind. What if a human found him? But she pushed the thought away. The Valari believed humans cared only for their own kind. They came to Narelon for resources, not friendship. "No human would help a Valari child," she muttered. Far from the village, Elias spotted a small cave half buried in a snowy ridge. He used his heat sensor to scan the area. The cave seemed safe. No wild animals, and it was protected from the wind. He pushed through the thick snow, carrying the boy. Inside the cave, it was dark, but the air was calmer. Elias set the child down and unpacked his supplies. He placed a heat emitter near the boy and gently rubbed his hands. "Come on, little guy," Elias whispered. "Stay with me." He took out an emergency nutrient pack and opened it. It wasn't made for Valari, but it was warm and soft. He placed a little on the boy's lips. Slowly, the child moved. Talen blinked. "Mama?" "Not your mama," Elias said with a soft smile. "But I'm here to help." He pulled out a medical kit and checked the child's vitals. His condition was stable, but he was weak. The boy needed rest, food, and warmth. Elias looked around the cave. The entrance was narrow and partly covered. It would block most of the wind. Still, he worried. The storm outside could last for hours, maybe days. He turned on a small light and sat near the boy. "You're a brave little one," he said. "Reminds me of someone I used to know." Elias grew quiet. He remembered a time long ago, on Mars, during the Red Storm. He had lost his daughter then. She was only 5. The shelters failed and the oxygen tanks froze. He had held her small body as the cold took her away. That memory never left him. Not again, Elias whispered. Not this child, not this time. Back in the village, Jera could not sleep. She stood outside her home, watching the storm. Snow hit her face, but she did not care. Suddenly, a Valari scout ran to her. We found something, the scout said. A heat signal, not far from the southern forest. Jera's eyes widened. Is it my child? We do not know. The storm is too thick to see clearly, but it seems human tech is there. Jera's heart beat faster. A human? The scout nodded. Yes, a single one. Alone. Fear and anger rose in Jera's chest. What was a human doing near her child? Had he taken him? Was this some trick? I must go, Jera said. No, the scout said. It is too dangerous. Wait for the storm to pass. But Jera had made up her mind. She would find her son no matter the risk. In the cave, Elias made a small fire using a flameless heat cube. It gave off a soft orange glow. Telen was sleeping now, his breathing slow but stronger. Elias looked at the boy and smiled. He reminded him so much of his daughter. Curious eyes, soft voice, small hands. He reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny carved figure, a toy soldier worn and smooth. It had belonged to his daughter. He placed it near the sleeping boy. She would have liked you, Elias said quietly. Outside, the storm still howled, but Elias was no longer afraid. He had someone to protect again. Jera wrapped herself in her thickest cloak and headed toward the forest. The wind pushed her back, but she pressed forward. Her legs were tired, but her heart was strong. She walked for hours. At last, she saw it aglow in the snow like a fire behind ice. She fell to her knees, a human, and her son. To be continued in Part 3. Ice and Fire. Snow covered everything like a white blanket. The wind had slowed a little, but the cold was still sharp and dangerous. The sky was dark, and the storm had not ended. The land of Narellan looked quiet, but deep inside the forest ridge, life was still fighting. Inside the small icy cave, Captain Elias Vorn sat near the entrance. His helmet light glowed softly, and a heat cube kept the air inside just warm enough. He listened carefully to the sound of the storm, always alert. Behind him, the Valari child Telen slept peacefully under a blanket. His skin color had returned to normal and his breathing was calm. He was healing, but very slowly. Elias leaned back against the cold wall of the cave and looked at his worn gloves. His fingers were stiff. He had been out here too long. The human base was too far to reach in this weather, and his supplies were running low. One more day, he whispered. Just one more day, and this storm has to pass. But deep down, he wasn't sure. His mind drifted again to the past. He remembered his daughter's voice, the way she used to laugh when he told her stories. He remembered holding her hand during the red storm. He remembered the silence that came after. I won't let it happen again, he said. Far across, the snow, Jera stood at the edge of the forest. The storm had pushed her back many times, but now she had made it. Her legs ached and her face was frozen, but she was close. She saw the faint orange light glowing in the distance. It came from the cave. She moved forward slowly, unsure of what she would find. The human was still there. What if he had taken her son? What if the boy was hurt or worse? Her heart beat quickly. As she got closer, she stopped and hid behind a snow-covered tree. She saw the human clearly now. He was not wearing his helmet anymore. His face looked tired but calm. He sat near the fire, his body slightly shaking. He looked like a man who had carried something heavy for a long time. Jera's eyes moved past him, and then she saw him. Telen, her child, sleeping, breathing, alive. Tears came to her eyes. She wanted to run to him, but something made her stop. The human was watching over him like a protector. He had not harmed him. He had saved him. Jera stayed hidden and watched. She needed to understand. Inside the cave, Elias stood up and checked the entrance. Snow was piling up fast. If the cave got sealed from outside, they would be trapped. He needed to find a second way out, just in case. He looked around the cave, again. His scanner picked up a narrow crack along the back wall. He moved closer and saw a gap, just big enough for a person to crawl through. He activated his torch and leaned in. Behind the wall was a natural tunnel, dark and tight, but warmer than outside. The heat reading showed signs of geothermal energy. Underground, warmth from deep within the planet. "That's our way out," Elias said to himself. He turned back to Telen, who was now awake. The boy looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. He spoke in a soft, trembling voice. "Are you human?" Elias smiled. "Yes, but don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you." Telen blinked. "You helped me." "That's right. I found you in the snow. You were freezing. I couldn't just leave you." The boy stared at him. "But you're not like us." Elias sat down beside him. "No, I'm not. But sometimes being different doesn't mean we can't care." Telen was quiet. Then he whispered, "I miss my mother." "I know," Elias said gently. "She's probably out there, looking for you." The boy's small hands gripped the blanket tighter. "Will she find me?" "I think she will," Elias answered. "And I'll help her find you too." Outside the cave, Jera wiped her eyes. She had seen enough. She stepped out from behind the tree and walked slowly toward the entrance. Elias heard the soft crunch of snow. He turned fast, drawing his scanner, but stopped when he saw who it was. A Valerie woman, tall and wrapped in a thick cloak, stood at the entrance. Her eyes were glowing in the dim light. Her face showed fear and strength together. Elias didn't move. "You must be his mother," he said carefully. Jera nodded slowly. "I am Jera." She stepped inside and looked at her son. Her breath caught in her throat. "Telen!" The boy looked up and cried out, "Mama!" He tried to run, but Elias held him back gently. "Wait. Go slow. You're still weak." Jera rushed forward and wrapped her arms around her son. She touched his face, his arms, checked every part of him. "You're safe. You're safe," she whispered over and over. Telen smiled, then pointed to Elias. "He saved me, Mama. He stayed with me." Jera looked up at Elias. Her eyes were full of confusion. "Why?" she asked. "Why would a human save my child?" Elias didn't smile. "Because he needed help, and I was there." Jera stared at him for a long time. Then she whispered, "But we are not your kind." Elias nodded. "You're right, but that doesn't matter when a child is in danger." The wind outside began to howl again. Snow fell from the edge of the cave. The entrance was closing fast. Elias looked at the cave wall. "We need to leave. This cave is going to seal shut." Jera stood up, holding Telen close. "Where can we go?" Elias pointed to the tunnel behind the wall. "There's a geothermal vent tunnel. It's tight, but it might lead us to safety." Jera hesitated. She looked at the dark hole. She didn't like the idea of crawling into the ground, but then she looked at Elias, this human who had protected her son, who had not run away. She nodded. "Lead the way." Elias grabbed his gear. He checked Telen once more, then activated his light. "Stay close, and be careful. The ground may be slippery." The three of them, human, mother, and child, stepped into the tunnel together, leaving the ice and storm behind. In that dark place, surrounded by stone and steam, a small fire of trust began to grow. The tunnel was dark and narrow. The walls were rough and damp. Drops of warm water dripped from the stone ceiling and echoed in the silence. Steam rose from cracks in the ground, making the air heavy but not cold. Captain Elias Vorn moved slowly, in front. His helmet light showed the path. He checked his scanner every few steps to make sure the tunnel was safe. Behind him, Jera held her son Telen close, helping him walk. They were deep under the ice now, walking through a natural passage formed by ancient heat. Elias knew this was their best chance to escape the storm above. The snow could not reach them here, but the way forward was not easy. "Keep your hand on the wall," Elias said gently. "The ground is slippery." Jera nodded but said nothing. She watched the human carefully. He moved with purpose but also with care. She was still not sure if she could fully trust him, but without him her son would not be alive. Telen looked up at Elias with curious eyes. "Where does this tunnel go?" he asked softly. Elias looked back and smiled. "If my map is correct, it leads to a rise above the forest. An old human shelter will be safe there." "Will there be food?" the boy asked. "Yes," Elias said. "And warm beds." Jera spoke for the first time in a while. "And after that? Will you take us to your base?" Elias paused. He didn't answer right away. "If that's what you want," he said finally, "or I can help you return to your people when the storm ends." She nodded slowly. For now, survival was more important than decisions. After an hour of walking, the tunnel became steeper. Elias stopped and looked ahead. A tall, rocky wall stood in their path. It was a natural cliff inside the tunnel, rising more than 20 feet. Steam rose from cracks nearby. "We'll need to climb," Elias said. "It's the only way forward." Jera looked at the wall. "I can climb, but Telen, he is weak." Elias turned and knelt in front of the boy. "Do you trust me?" Telen looked at his mother. She nodded slowly. "Yes," the boy said. Elias smiled. "Good. I'll carry you. You just hold on tight, all right?" Telen wrapped his arms around Elias's neck. The human's armor was cold, but his voice was warm. Elias adjusted his grip and began the slow climb. Each step was careful. The rocks were wet. His boots slipped once, but he caught himself. Steam made it hard to see, but he moved with calm strength. Jera watched from below. Her heart beat fast. Every second felt like a lifetime. But finally, Elias reached the top and placed the boy down safely. "Your turn," he called down. Jera took a deep breath and started climbing. She had done this before in her younger days when she explored the stone hills of her homeworld. But now she was tired and fear tried to slow her. Still, she climbed. Elias reached out and grabbed her hand as she neared the top. He pulled her up with ease. "Well done," he said. "Thank you," she replied, a little surprised. They continued, walking through the upper part of the tunnel. The walls were wider now and the air was warmer. Strange glowing moss grew along the rocks, casting a soft green light. Telen reached out and touched it. "It feels alive." "It is," Elias said. "Your planet has many wonders." Jera looked at him. "You speak like someone who respects it. But most humans come to take from our world." Elias was quiet for a moment. "You're right," he said. "Many came here for the crystals. Some didn't care about the people already living here. I didn't agree with that." "Then why are you here?" Elias looked down at his hands. "To start again, to do something good." They walked for another hour. The tunnel curved upward and then opened into a large chamber. Elias stopped and scanned the walls. "This is it," he said. "The human shelter is just above us." Jera looked around. She saw a metal ladder built into the rock wall, leading up to a hidden door. "How do we open it?" Elias tapped his wrist device. A soft beep echoed in the chamber. The metal door above them clicked and slid open. "Let's go." He helped Telen climb first, then followed behind. Jera came last. As they entered the shelter, warm air hit their faces. Lights turned on automatically. The room was small but clean. A power source hummed gently in the corner. Shelves of emergency supplies lined the walls. Elias smiled. Home for now. He opened a storage box and took out food packs and blankets. He handed one to Jera and another to Telen. "Eat slowly. he said. Let your body warm up. Jera watched her son eat. His face had color again. His smile had returned. Then she looked at the human. You didn't have to do this, she said. Elias looked at her. I know. Why did you? Elias sat down and looked at the small carved figure he had given the boy earlier, the toy soldier. I lost someone once, a child. I couldn't save her, but I could save yours. Jera was silent. Then she spoke in a soft voice. I judged you before I knew you. It's all right, Elias replied. Your people have reason to be careful. They sat together in the warmth, watching the snow fall outside through the glass panel above. Later that night, Tilen fell asleep under a warm blanket. Elias sat by the window writing in his logbook. Jera stood nearby. Do you think our people can ever trust each other? She asked. Elias looked up. I think it starts with moments like this. Jera nodded. She looked at her son, then at Elias. Then let this be the first. Outside, the storm slowly began to fade. The sky was still gray, but the worst had passed. Tomorrow they would decide where to go next. But for now, they had warmth, safety, and something new between them, hope. The storm had passed. The skies above the ice forest of Narellan were now quiet. Pale sunlight touched the white ground, and a soft breeze moved through the trees. After many days of cold, silence, and fear, the world was beginning to breathe. Again. Inside the human shelter, Captain Elias Vorn opened the top hatch and looked out. Snow still covered everything, but the clouds had broken. It was safe to move. He turned back and saw Jera helping her son Tilen with his boots. The boy looked stronger now. His cheeks had color again, and he could walk on his own. It's clear, Elias said. We can head out. Jera stood up and nodded. Thank you, she said quietly. Elias gave her a soft smile. We'll head to the comm beacon on the ridge. From there I can call my people, or yours. Jera hesitated. Will they come? Someone will. And this time I'll make sure they listen. They packed the last of the supplies and stepped out into the snow. The air was crisp and still. The sun was weak but beautiful. Snowflakes sparkled like tiny stars. Elias led the way, checking his scanner as they climbed the ridge. Jera followed, walking beside Tilen. The boy held her hand and looked up at the sky. It's not scary anymore, he said. Jera squeezed his hand. Because we're not alone. The walk took almost 2 hours. The path was slippery in places and the climb was steep. But finally they reached a small metal post sticking out of the ground. The beacon tower, an old human communication device. Elias turned it on. The lights blinked. The signal went out into the sky. Now we wait, he said. They built a small fire and sat around it, warming their hands. Elias pulled out a few dried food bars and shared them with the others. Jera looked at the tall human. He had saved her son, protected him, and asked for nothing in return. Her heart was full of questions. Your daughter, she said. You lost her in a storm? Elias nodded. Yes. On another world. There was a power failure during a blizzard. I couldn't get to her in time. Jera lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. So am I, Elias said. That's why, when I found Tilen in the snow, I couldn't walk away. There was silence between them for a while. Then Jera spoke again. We were told humans only cared about minerals and machines. We were told you would never risk your life for a Valari child. Elias looked into the fire. Maybe some wouldn't, but not all humans are the same. Nor are all Valari, Jera said. I judged you too quickly. Elias smiled slightly. And yet, you came looking for your son, even when you thought I might harm him. That was brave. Jera looked at Tilen, who was now drawing circles in the snow with a stick. We do strange things for love, she said. That's something we both understand, Elias replied. After some time, a sound filled the air, a soft hum growing louder. They looked up and saw a ship in the sky. It was small, like a shuttle, and it flew low over the trees. The ship slowed and hovered, then landed nearby. The door opened. 3 people stepped out, 2 humans in scout armor and 1 tall Valari in silver robes. Jera stood up quickly, surprised. "That's Eldrin Vale," she said. A council voice, Elias, looked at her. He must have been near the area. Lucky. The group approached. The lead human removed her helmet. She had short black hair and kind eyes. "Captain Elias Vorn?" she asked. "Yes." "We received your signal. You requested joint recovery?" Elias nodded and pointed to Jera and to Len. "They're with me. The boy was injured in the storm. He's recovered now." Eldrin Vale stepped forward. He looked at Jera and spoke in Valeri tongue. "Jera of the Ice Path, you were declared lost. We searched for you." Jera bowed her head. "I was saved. By him," she said, pointing at Elias. The tall Valari looked at the human. "You protected her child?" Elias nodded. "I did what I could." There was silence. Then Eldrin Vale stepped forward and bowed his head slightly. "Then today we thank a human." The scout captain raised her brows, impressed. "That's rare praise," she whispered. Jera turned to Elias. "Will you come with us? Back to the council lands? They will want to speak to you. You have shown something they did not expect." Elias looked thoughtful. "Maybe, but only if they want to listen, not just speak." Jera smiled. "I'll make sure they do." The group returned to the shuttle. Elias sat beside Telen, who had fallen asleep again. Jera sat across from him, watching the white world grow smaller through the window. The shuttle lifted into the sky. Below them, the storm-ravaged land slowly faded behind them. Jera leaned closer to Elias. "I never believed a human would risk his life for someone like us. And I never thought I'd be welcomed by the people we once feared." Elias replied. She held out her hand. He took it.